Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be looking at some Taliyah gameplay. Actually, Ucal's Taliyah, who is probably like the most well-known Taliyah of all time, used to be like a Taliyah one trick back before he was a pro. So recently Taliyah was reworked and she's been changed a lot. So they've changed her Q, W, and E a fair amount to kind of bring you up to speed. And now the Q is slightly AoE, and also the E stuns people if they dash through it, as opposed to just dealing damage. And the W no longer deals damage. Overall, the Taliyah changes, they make her scale a lot better, but she is a lot weaker in the early game. So it's actually like a complete flip kind of to how it was before, where she had this really strong early game and she did scale quite well damage wise, but she actually kind of had difficulties dealing damage in the late game. Like she get outranged a lot. But now she's actually like really good after kind of like that first item, like level 9 points. That's kind of where you're aiming for. Tomorrow, I'll be putting out like a short kind of like Taliyah guide, maybe like 5 minutes long. I don't want to do a full in-depth guide because she hasn't been out long enough as in this rework state. But I feel like a quick 5-minute guide will kind of help you guys like get playing her and kind of my thoughts on it. I have played a few Taliyah games on my stream over at Twitch TV ShockLol. So there's also a couple of VODs there you could check out if you're interested. I think the more recent one, just like 2 days ago or whatever, I went like 8-1 or something, so that could be a good game to watch to kind of like get a gauge of Taliyah's power. I do think she is like fairly decent. I'd say probably like an A tier champion. She's gonna have some difficult matchups, but I think she's pretty good. So same as before, in the early game as Taliyah, normally you just like focus on pushing waves. The reason for that is that you can't really harass like very easily in the early game, but you'll see here now that the E is much longer than before, so you can actually use it as a fairly decent harassment tool. But it is like fairly costly mana wise. Yeah, 90 mana and has a long cooldown. Yeah, so another thing now is that when you're on worked ground, your Q actually like throws a boulder instead, which costs 20 mana, so it's not free or 1 mana like it used to be. But it slows and deals like a significant amount of damage. You can see just spam pushing in waves. Again, like this is what Taliyah has always done. It's kind of like good for Taliyah if she can avoid just having a straight up fight. I think like in the laning phase, much better if you can just like look to kind of like let the minions do the work for you. She's just not the strongest trading champion, and you'll see now actually that her damage early game is quite weak. Like before, you would definitely be looking for all-ins if you ever had a shove or anything like that. And I think now she's geared a lot more towards scaling, so you'll kind of see in my guide tomorrow. But personally, I think the best setup is something like Comet or First Strike, and then going for definitely like a scaling CDR build. So you could either go like Everfrost Seraphs, or you can also go like Leandry Seraphs, I think is quite good. So there's a lot of different things you can do. And here I think he was hugging to the wrong side, which is why he kind of like lost his things there. Buys a Dark Seal and comes back on the map. So again, yeah, this is kind of up to you. Like things are still kind of like not set in stone, no pun intended, for Taliyah. But personally, I think Tier is actually quite good on Taliyah, and rushing Seraphs is the second item. So yeah, there's a lot of things that you could still do. Like I think you can still try go for a one-shot build, something like Luden's Shadowflame, but just be aware that you're much more about like many rotations rather than just like an insane burst. And one thing that kind of goes well with that is that I think on the 12.10 patch, when fights do like become a bit longer and burst becomes like a bit less valuable, you actually see Taliyah probably shine a bit more. So I wonder if these changes were kind of like made in preparation for what like the new patch is going to be basically. So yeah, I think she could definitely be a pretty solid champ for you guys to learn at the moment. So a little bit ahead of Vex, does have a like pretty even item, like I don't know, slight item advantage to Vex maybe because she bought the Doran's ring, but pretty fine overall. Get some prior here, would be good to try drop a pink board in the bot river. Hopefully pink's one of these. Yep, nice pink. So you're going to be able to clear out all this vision here. This is really good. You can see the control around mid right now is super good. So it's very easy for Taliyah to play the game, and a bit scary for Vex to play the game. So you can see like so far there hasn't really been much like trading in the lane. That's just because like the way Taliyah works now, I mean Taliyah always was kind of like a push and roam champ, but I actually think Taliyah kind of functions a bit similar to sort of like Orianna or something now, where she kind of she has like a decently strong 1v1. Like in Orianna's case, she can harass the enemy champ quite a lot. In Taliyah's case, like she still has quite a bit of AoE wave clear, so she can keep pushing the waves, but also that they just kind of want to get to like that level 9 first item kind of power spike and then start like taking skirmishes and team fights from there. Yeah, at this point now has like really good wave clear. Can start like shoving these waves in, making it sort of difficult for Vex to play because she constantly kind of has to match. You can see the boulder there is quite useful for harassing targets kind of like through minions or like if they're behind minions. They flash on the Vex. Probably could have died if Zed went for one more auto. I think Taliyah goes down here. Taliyah dies. Not the end of the world, at least Vex didn't get the kill. And looks like there's some pretty crazy fight going on here. The Vex ends up getting a kill, but she lost her blue buff. Taliyah got some assists, so pretty happy with that. Boots Rush, so you'll see this very commonly on champions like Taliyah that do like to roam. I think it's pretty good, obviously. It allows you to kind of like play around the map really easy. Good against skill shot champions. The only problem with this, I think, is the kind of like lack of mana and less AP for wave clearing. But yeah, as you can see, the stun there when Nautilus goes through, it can be quite effective, and it makes it very easy to hit your stun afterwards. So personally, I think that kind of CDR boots is actually better on Taliyah at the moment. I think when you're solo AP like this, you still go Sork Shoes, but like I said, I think she benefits a lot from cooldown reduction at the moment. So I'll probably talk about that a bit more in my guide tomorrow. And like I said, there are a lot of builds going around, and I don't think it's really decided yet what the absolute best is, but personally I've found more success with kind of the CDR builds rather than just like the full one-shot builds. Although again, like she's solo AP, so it's quite good this game. Playing pretty safe right now, doesn't have any vision around mid, also doesn't have her flash, so just going to relax for a bit, try and wait until her team can get her some control back. You see Rakan moving up on the map, kind of like getting a little bit of bot control, but doesn't drop any wards. One thing you do need to be careful about is if you do buy boots early on, you can't spam quite as much. If you go in the tier build, it's like a little different, right? Because you have the extra mana, but just the kind of trade-off that you have from like rushing boots compared to last chapter is that like generally you have stronger skirmishing, you get the skirmishes quicker, you can dodge skill shots, you have more burst. But when it comes to actually just like contesting waves, you're not quite as strong as you would normally be. So there's a fight going on bot, may look to run to this. Yeah, it looks like they're going to keep chasing, so Taliyah with her extra movement speed from her passive can easily come down. Enemy starts backing off, so she can easily return to mid. And this is one thing that you guys should do when you're roaming, is you need to constantly be evaluating like whether you should continue or not. So here, yeah, like see constantly kind of like looking at bot lane, going back and forth, never fully committing one way or the other. And that way, if things change, like she's able to like adapt. If they had kept pushing, she could have easily roamed down. And if they didn't, then like, you know, she just comes back to mid and she doesn't lose too much for it. The Wukong actually coming for a gank. Taliyah kind of leaning Vex, so might be able to kill her here. Looks like she was scared it was warded, so she pings it off. This is kind of a rough point in the lane where you don't really have much mana. Fortunately, your Q isn't the most expensive spell in the world, but it does mean that you don't have much threat into Vex, so it would kind of be good. Nice flash. Would be good kind of to get off the map here until it doesn't really have the resources to pressure the map anymore. We'll see if she waits around to see if she can get a better base, but I think most likely probably just going to clean up this wave and then look to base. I think Nautilus. Okay, Nautilus kind of inting. Looks like. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Nautilus dies. Taliyah willing to give up some CS here. Tristana catches it anyway. Oh, actually going to stay. Okay, decides to base. So there, Taliyah, like no mana, no resources, essentially really needs to get off the map before she can start pressuring again. So just goes for the base. Was going to walk bot, but then when she saw the fight here, decided that she could walk to this. I think that's a pretty smart play. Can probably pick up some kills here. You just see, yeah, her whole team just like doing an insane amount of damage here. And the Gwen gets stunned, obviously, by Taliyah's E. So really good fight there. And I think this in general is like more what Taliyah wants. I think before, Taliyah had a lot of kind of a lot of reliability on having some point and click CC to guarantee that you hit the shove, because that's where all your damage came from. So you see things like Taliyah Renekton, for example, as a very common combo. It just made hitting that super easy. So in that sort of situation, Taliyah was like the damage portion of the combo, whereas like the other champs were more the setup. And I think now it's actually sort of the other way around. Taliyah on her own doesn't do a ton of damage at the moment, but she acts more as a setup champion. I don't want to say she's a support champion because like she's definitely not. But she's kind of one of those, like, she's not a full just damage champ anymore. She actually brings a fair amount of utility, and I would say she's easier to play overall. And she brings a lot of setup with kind of her CC and low cooldown, so I think she can pair pretty well with like damage junglers that do need setup, so champions like Zed, where they kind of just need the target to be slowed or CC'd in some way to kind of make it easier. So I say she has had a pretty big like identity shift But she remains like quite strong. Oh, that was weird. Her E went backwards. I don't know if like she intended that. I don't think she did. That was kind of an unlucky death. It actually looked like she cast it forward, so I'm not sure what happened there. Either way, it looks like her team is gonna be able to clean this up. Zed's really, really strong. Ooh, Nautilus actually gets out. Could maybe aggro. I was gonna say aggro the drag, but he manages to get the kills. Taliyah dies. At least some flashes. So she's going for the Everfrost this game. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of Everfrost. I've seen it built a lot, and I still think it's like probably, I don't know, there's like a few choices. I feel like you don't really need Everfrost on the champ as much as you kind of like did before. Like, I don't know, it sort of depends what you're after, because again, like Everfrost fits those champions that kind of do provide more just like setup, so champions like Ari. But I also think the like CDR from Liandry's is super, super nice. You can see it just stuns him here, makes it really easy for Zed to get a kill. Yeah, I mean, I think it is Everfrost or Liandry's for the most part. I also think you can put down quite a bit of poke with Ludens. But I really like Liandry's at the moment. I guess this isn't the best Liandry's game, although it's decent actually. They do have like 3 health stackers. Yeah, I think Liandry's probably quite good this game. So it gets mid prior, runs bot. This is a really good roam timing. You can see like the enemy bot lane pushed up really far with no sums, so it's like the perfect time to roam. The jungler's on the bot side, the wave's pushed up, so basically everything here is just screaming at you to just like run bot and pick up some kills. So come down here. Looks like these guys are probably going to die. If you can kill the AD carry here, it's very valuable to make sure she loses CS. So definitely going to try to get that. She goes down. It doesn't really matter too much if Nautilus dies or not, but killing the AD carry is really, really crucial. Just to make sure that you deny the CS. If you like have a choice between killing one or the other, it's not even close. Like you really need to kill the ADC and not worry too much about whether or not you kill the support. So pushes this wave in, gonna base. We're actually gonna do one more. I think they definitely can. The enemy bot lane is off the map at the moment. So pushes one more, bases, has the Everfrost, so really, really strong at the moment. I think this is when Taliyah spikes really hard, as like when you have that level 9, the 5 points in Q, and you also have your first item. So at this point in the game, you really want to be getting involved in a lot of fights, taking a lot of skirmishes, and you'll have like a really high impact on the game. So yeah, like I said, it is quite different from before in terms of, not so much in terms of how she plays, like mechanically, but more in terms of like what your kind of goals and identity are within the game. You know, I think before, Taliyah was very much about like snowballing the game, creating like a big advantage for your team, whereas now, yeah, it definitely plays more akin to Orianna, but still has like the kind of mechanical feel from Taliyah, which is quite fun. I think Taliyah is a pretty fun champion to play, so that's kind of cool. Comes down to the side lane, gonna catch this wave. Could be scary to push anymore, so most likely just gonna come group with her team after this. Actually gonna go for another. I think it's a little risky. We'll see if she gets away with it. I mean, she has her team in the bot river. Okay, so it looks like, yeah, okay, good choice by her. Is able to get away with this. I was a little skeptical that Lee and Vex could be here, but it turns out they are not. Comes back towards the team. Definitely like a champ that kind of wants a front-to-back team fight. Don't really want to find flanks too much, so after pushing the bot wave, Vex is forced to answer. Taliyah can come look for a fight. This would be a great time to take a fight when Vex had just showed bot. And that's like the power of, if you can push the wave all the way in on the bot wave like this, the enemy is forced to respond to it or lose a wave, and then you can use your prior to look for a fight. So Nort engages, really bad time to fight. You can see even in Korean Challenger, they make these like very, I don't want to say it's basic, but they're very big macro errors. Like, definitely shouldn't be looking for an engager this time. Wow, a lot of damage coming out. You can see Taliyah's cooldown's very, very low. The Q actually 2 seconds. So you can get a lot of cooldowns out. You can get a lot of E's, a lot of Qs. Just deal quite a lot of damage over an extended fight, especially if you have a more CDR focused build. Like, this is even a build that doesn't really have much CDR, you know, like, does have a little bit of ability haste, obviously, but doesn't have, say, as much as the Liandry's. Doesn't even have Seraphs yet, doesn't have CDR boost, so you can get your cooldowns even lower than they are now. Really, 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 really effective. So going Zhonya's second, I think, honestly, probably a little unnecessary. But I think, like, at this point in the game, it's like, if you don't die, you will probably win. Get the nice stun. Nautilus flashes out. So yeah, I think the Zhonya's for a bit of extra safety. I mean, it's still good, right? Like, it's really good against their team, to be honest. It's just whether or not you actually need it. Like, yeah, maybe you don't, but it's okay to be safe. Pushes in the wave again. The enemy team is going to be forced to answer. It's probably going to go... I was going to say is going to go for the tower, but actually decides not to. Mainly probably because her team is like starting to move away. Like, you see Rakan moving back to top river, Wukong moving back to top, so it's no longer as safe to just hit that tower. Uses her priority here to come back mid. And again, you see, because he crashed the wave all the way in on the side lane, Vex is forced to answer, which gives Taliyah time to come and like use her numbers advantage and maybe zone these people off the tower here. You see, Taliyah uses the side lane priority quite well, comes mid and knocks down this tower. Vex can be here now, but I think blue team would still win a 4v4. Doesn't go back bot at the moment. It would be a bit unsafe, mainly because all her team is topside, so she doesn't really need, well, she can't really go here yet, but she doesn't need to go here either. It's going to push to her, so she can just leave it for a while. But it is definitely a 4v4 or even 5v5 situation here. No one's showing on side lane, so a typical solo queue ARAM. Looks like Nautilus is looking for an engage. Doesn't really find it. Taliyah very, very good against these types of comps now. Honestly feels very similar to something like Vex in terms of like what you might pick against compositionally. I think short range team comps, champs with a lot of dashes, Taliyah can kind of do very, very well into. Whereas like more ranged comps could be quite difficult for you to deal with. So very nice. Zhonya's actually going to keep her alive. If she didn't have Zhonya's, probably would have died. So actually, I guess like the Zhonya's turned out to be an extremely good purchase. And yeah, if you don't die on Taliyah kind of like this, like the longer the fight goes for you, the more and more it goes in your favor. As you just like put out more and more like sustained damage, more and more cooldowns. So pretty much the ideal fight for you there. Again, comes back but at a base, can probably take these Krugs. Okay, actually not going to take, I think could have taken the Krugs, but going to come mid. I guess Tristana is basing, so she feels the need to kind of cover this tower. If the enemy bot lane goes for the tower, she can also look to punish them. So interesting choice. I think maybe could have got the Krugs and still got here in time, but overall, not a huge deal either way. Also think Dark Tier is like very, very valuable, like just on any AP champion, but Taliyah can use it quite well because she has a lot of AoE, so it's going to be very easy for her to pick up like a lot of ambient kind of assists and KP in fights to make sure that your Darksteel remains pretty highly stacked. So grouping mid, waits for kind of the bot lane to push. It could go top here, I think. Maybe she wants to just like try find a pick though. Top wave is going to deny a fair amount of her CS, so it's kind of not ideal that she didn't push it. But maybe at this point in the game, it is just better to kind of like stand behind your team and make sure the enemy can't get an engage off. Because I think like right now, it's super easy to win a 5v5. You can see, actually has fairly decent damage now. Definitely not on the level of Taliyah beforehand, but has extremely low cooldowns and can just keep putting out those E's. Keep making it really difficult for the enemy team to kind of play these fights. So most likely that is going to be the game. They come over here, they get the Baron. Just going to reset after Baron. It's always ideal if you can all reset, spend your gold, and then come back on the map. Goes to the Medjay, is very Chad. We like to see that as a fellow Medjay's enthusiast. Now, when you get Baron, it's normally best if you play 2 lanes rather than 3 lanes. Obviously, if you can Baron 3 lanes, that is good. But you run the risk of getting engaged on. And in solo queue, when you can't really trust your teammates to play optimally, it is just better to play 2 lanes. So ideally mid wave and then the closest side wave to the objective. In this case, the objective spawning is Dragon. So they play mid and bot. Now, one thing about Taliyah is that obviously you can ult in the mid game to get to other lanes fairly quickly. So it's like pretty easy for you to kind of push the side lane. Although the only thing you need to be careful of is that your 1v1 is not the best. Like I think you'll lose, maybe not in this game because they're both pretty behind, but generally you would lose the side lane. Bases, ults out of base. These guys are pretty low. Vex flashes but dies regardless. Maybe he can catch Gwen. Okay, Gwen goes back in. Actually dies as well. So really well played mechanically here. Not sure if she can kill this guy as well. If he goes back in... I mean, the cooldown's just so low. Oh, and the game ends because they FF. So, basically, I think overall, Taliyah, pretty strong champion at the moment. Definitely much different from before. Tomorrow, I think I will come out with kind of like a 5-minute guide, like summarizing my thoughts on Taliyah so far. But I think I also kind of like talked about it in this game. But I will talk about, yeah, more in depth, like the runes you should take. I guess I'll show the runes in case I forgot. Oh, no, I can't. Yes, I can. So that was just like the full early game page that she took there. But yeah, tomorrow I'll talk about the items, runes, how I think the champ should be played in general. Hopefully this thing was helpful for you guys. Let me know, obviously. And if you enjoyed it, go ahead and like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.